back. Now, I have been talking about this virtual school learning. And just before we get into that conversation, before we went for the break, we had a conversation on mental health, that is emotional intelligence at workplaces with Masi Mukai. A very interesting discussion where we have learned a lot. So if you missed that bit of this Yeshara Tuesday show on the launch today, you can wait this virtual interview, virtual learning interview, Isha, and then you can go back and check that out. So now that we are here, I'm joined by Benedict Nyokabi. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. We're so pleased to have you this morning on this very exciting conversation on virtual schooling. So before we get into, before we set this rolling, I would kindly ask you to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
So I'm Benedict, I'm Benedict I'm the co-founder and education director at Sunrise Virtual School, and I am a KU alumnus. Actually, I was here in between 2007 to 2011. I don't know whether you guys were born yet.
Really?
Yes, and well, I am an educator and a great advocate for accessible education for all. Um, I am a wife and a mom of 3 kids, and I am also a worship minister. Yeah.
You've mentioned 2007 to 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is a period when we didn't have so much of online learning and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, how was your transition from normal classroom
Mm-hmm.
to now the virtual schooling?
Okay, so let me speak to when we were in school at campus. By then, they were just starting to introduce virtual homeworks, virtual notes, and so on and so forth. We found it very hard. Reason being, first of all, there was no adequate training, so you just found yourself in a very strange space. But when it comes to Sunrise, we transitioned right after COVID. What happened was during COVID, we were forced to go completely virtual. And then when we did a survey after that, it was giving us better learner output. And then it also opened up the borders for us. Before, we would just cover learners within Nairobi. Now, with the virtual learning, we are able to cover learners in over 30 nations. So that's basically how we transitioned. It was not, of course, an easy transition. There has been quite a number of trainings that we've had to do, because when teachers go to school, they are trained to teach in a physical setup most of the time. So when they come to work, we definitely have to train them on how to deliver in a virtual space. Yeah, but that we do over and over. During the holidays, we take a break, we get to do training and retraining, because again, in the virtual space, things keep changing. Today it is this that applies, tomorrow it's another different thing that has come up. So we have to keep abreast with everything. Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, it is a situation where you keep retooling every now and then.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Now, when it comes to the virtual learning, you've mentioned of COVID-19 that required everything to go virtual.
Yes.
What other things inspired the transition from the physical learning to the virtual schooling?
Okay, the other thing, allow me to take this in three parts: the parent angle, the learner angle, and also the workspace. The needs of the 21st century parent have changed. Before, you would have your mom go to work in the morning and then come back in the evening, probably, or have your dad go to work in the morning, come back in the evening, the same local space. But now, what is happening is that the needs of the 21st century parent have changed, because most parents are either working from home or they are traveling parents. So what happens to me if I am a traveling parent and I have 3 children, just like I have said? I don't want to miss out on their growth. So for the virtual schooling space, it tackles the need of, I can actually wake up today and travel with my daughter, and they will not miss out on school. If I get transferred, for example, my child, I don't have to go through the trouble of looking for a school for my child. So that's the parent side. Then number two, the learner side. The learners we have in class right now, we like to call them the digital natives, because these guys, the first thing they see is a phone, is a screen. I remember playing music for my son when he was in my tummy. So these guys interact with the digital space from even before birth. So this is their life. This is all they know. So if you do not curate education around their way of life, you definitely are losing them. And then the workspace. Right now, most of the workspaces are going virtual. And how the future world of work looks like is we will come together in a virtual space, people from different nationalities get to sit down in a virtual boardroom, tackle problems, and so on and so forth. The other aspect of the future world of work is what we call the gigs, where we just get to measure what you need to do and then we let you go and have you handle that. So, what do we need to do as educators to ensure that the learners that we have in class are prepared for this particular space? The virtual world of learning teaches the child to be self-disciplined, number one, because in the virtual world of work, definitely nobody is looking over your shoulder to get to check, have you done your task, have you done this and this. The number two aspect is that it's a world of work that is full of different nationalities, people situated in different spaces but coming together to offer a solution. So this is mimicked in the virtual class as well. And then the other aspect is definitely the need of doing research and virtually so, and making presentations virtually as well. So these are some of the things that make Sunrise run as it does. The desire to prepare the learner to fit in into the future world of work, and also to tackle the needs of the learner, and also of the world of work, and also of the parent that is currently taking children to school right now.
That is quite a motivation, a very huge one. Now, there is a transition. For those who are born right now, they're digital natives, yes.
Yeah.
And there is the aspect of interaction. You know, for a normal classroom, you get to get immediate feedback. For a child, as a teacher, as you walk around, you get to get immediate feedback. And it's easier to monitor students' engagement if they're concentrating, if they have zoned out.
Yeah.
So how does that happen in this case when a child is looking at a screen?
Okay. A child, first of all, is not looking at a screen only. The classes are live and interactive. So the classmates are logging in from whichever part of the world they are in, and the teacher is logging in from our teaching center. And then our rule number one is the cameras must be on always, so that we get to interact with the learners' facial expressions. That is one of the aspects that get to communicate to the teacher, either in a physical class or in a virtual classroom. Then number two, there are of course chat spaces in our portal where the learner is able to actually chat and speak to the teacher whenever they need to. Then number two, we do not take a teacher-centered approach. We normally take a very learner-centered approach. Let's say, for example, tomorrow we are covering the Table Mountains. I will come in as the geography teacher and I will tell you tomorrow we are covering the Table Mountains. So what do you get to do? You get to do your research. Then tomorrow when you come back to class, we are seated on a virtual roundtable and we get to give each other information. This is what I found out. This is what I found out. This is what I found out. Then the teacher gets to guide us, and then they post notes on the dashboard, and then the learners get to go through the notes later on. So it's not a dead space. It's a space that is very, very, very interactive actually. Yeah.
What happens to the very young learners who probably aren't able to do the typing and the reading during the classes?
Okay, so when you come in as a young learner, we take in from 5 years. So when you come in as a young learner, just like physical school where we get to teach you from writing and all of these basics that you need to learn, in the virtual space, we start out with you writing by hand. I keep on saying, as much as we are moving to the digital space, handwriting is definitely a skill that we are going to need later on in life. So one of the things we do is train you. You write by hand, then you scan, and then you send the information back to the teacher. then what we do at this particular space is send you more of pictures, more of videos, more of things that you get to see and learn. So we incorporate the digital side and we also incorporate the physical side. By the way, not only for the young learners, even for the older ones, they also get to write by hand.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you measure the effectiveness of this mode of learning?
Okay. So there's definitely evaluation, just like any other school. So evaluation happens, of course, from the time you join us. We get to do a week-long evaluation to get to understand who you really are. How much are you able to understand? And then we curate a personalized journey for you. Then after that, we definitely have examinations. There's, of course, half-term examinations, just like any other school. End of term examinations, and of course international exams at year 6, year 9, and year 11. So of course there's a way of checking whether the learner is understanding, and of course there's feedback during a class to class basis, and the learners also get to send in notes as well, so that you can get to check and see how far they are at. Yes.
Now, that is very well said.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how parents take it. There are those who embrace it, and there are those who don't embrace it. And all of them have their reasons. Now let's talk about this category of parents who really think that this is something that is maybe not going to be possible. What are some of the hindrances or blockage that you face when advancing to such parents? What do they talk about as reasons why they're reluctant to embracing this mode of learning?
Okay. The larger group of parents that we have right now went through the brick and mortar school. And of course, they know that as the only way of schooling. So we have two types of parents: the ones who've already had interacted with the virtual schooling before, or maybe traditional homeschooling where learners get to study from home. These ones are an easy plug and play. But then, let's say, for example, a parent calls me from Bungoma. It's the first time they are hearing about virtual schooling. So the questions is normally, "Ai, iyo kweli ni shule?" That's normally the first question. So basically for this kind of a parent, what we do is take them step by step, just the same way you would teach 1+1 to a child. And then we get to give test classes once in a while, so that the learner on the other end is able to get to test and see how this virtual schooling works, and also the parent is able to get to see, oh, for sure, learning is happening. The most interesting thing is that these ones that come in asking, "Ay, Bernadette, does it really work?" are the ones who become our greatest ambassadors. Yes.
The most satisfied clients.
Oh, let me tell you, they go all out.
Okay. Now there is this generation is perceived to be a generation, an individualistic generation, where it's all about me, 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 and that's because they have created a community around social media. So someone thinks they have maybe 70,000 friends because they have 70,000 followers, and it breaches the community aspect. And now most relationships are normally created from childhood. You'd hear someone say that this is my best friend. We've been friends since I was in primary school.
Yes.
And they create these bonds. If it's boys, they create this boys group, and it goes to creating chamas and all that. So when it comes to this type of schooling, where it is connecting 30 countries, maybe from Zimbabwe you have one student, from maybe two students in Kenya, where one is in Mombasa, another one is in Kisumu. So how do you foster the community aspect of it, the social aspect of it, where someone feels like I have a friend, a real friend? How does that happen?
Very good question, and it's actually part of our FAQs. It's frequently asked. In fact, after how do you deliver the curriculum, the next question is how do you handle the social aspect of the learner? Number one, I think it's a fallacy for us to think that we have to come together every day for us to create a bond. If, let's say, for example, where I went to school in primary school, the people that I interacted with are people from my village mostly. But then my daughter, she studies at Sunrise. My daughter has, just the other day she was telling me, oh, I have a friend from Yemen, and this is what she likes, this is what she does over the weekend, and so on and so forth. So what we do to ensure that these learners are not only meeting during learning, we incorporate quite a number of social activities during the week. They come in the form of clubs. They come in the form of what we call the DEAR program, Drop Everything and Read, where we get to read books and critique them. Then they come in the form of thematic assemblies. Our assemblies are not empty. They are full of information. They are full of current affairs. They are full of things like sports news and so on and so forth. Then normally what happens is we create a community around you. If you are in Mombasa, for example, we create a community of learners in Mombasa. So you guys get to meet as learners in Mombasa. The learners in Nairobi get to meet quite often. They are lucky because this is a Nairobi baby. So they get to meet on Fridays, every Friday for sports. But then once in a while, at the end of the half term, we get to meet as a community, Sunrise community. This one has seen learners fly in all the way from other countries as well to just come in. And, you know, they get to create quite an interesting community around them locally and also from other learners out there. And then there's something that we normally call the hangout sessions. The hangout sessions is basically us letting down our hair, forgetting about the serious stuff of the class, and getting to know each other a little bit better. In this particular space, if you have a pet, you bring them on. Let's get to meet them. What is their name? Do you have a baby brother? How does Dubai look like today? And so on and so forth. So we create spaces where they get to converse outside of a class setting.
I love the fact that they get to meet, maybe if it's once or twice a year, they all come together and meet. So there's also the health aspect where too much screen time leads to, health problems. How do you regulate this, especially now that classes are normal time best from 8 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon? So how do you handle the possible challenge of having health complications?
So normally what we do is we make the lessons very short and very interactive. And then I tend to say that screen time without a purpose, that's which that leads to doom scrolling and the likes, and that's what leads to mental health issues. But screen time with a purpose, if we are gathered here for a specific purpose for the next 30 minutes, a specific purpose that's going to build us, that's going to grow us, that's going to stretch our minds, that's actually a healthy space for us. So what we normally do is ensure the classes are short, and then we ensure that we have breaks in between. And then in between the breaks, like now during the lunch hour, we normally train the parent on what to do. You need to have your child outside there, you need to have your child have lunch, you need to have your child doing this and this and this. But as the learners grow older, you do not need to get to into these spaces because by that time they're already disciplined, they know how to run their day.
Very interesting. Now let's talk about the expense of this type of learning, because if I think about it, uh, practicals are done at home, and there is also the fee aspect and all that. So how affordable is this mode of learning?
It's actually way more affordable than the brick and mortar
Really?
school. Yeah, because you see, with virtual learning, it eliminates the aspect of having to build, having to get school buses, and all of that capital expenses. Um, so you've talked about the practical aspect. We use virtual labs. So these particular virtual labs, we just simulate, so the learner is able to follow through. But then for the learners within Nairobi chapter, they get to enjoy our physical labs once in a while. So the parent does not need to buy any substances, by the way. So we are able to show that in a virtual setting. I can say for sure, if you compare our fees against any other Cambridge school, we are at a third percent of what they charge. And then remember, you're not paying for food, you're not paying for transport, and all of that. And on top of it, by the way, the learners don't have to wait for school buses at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Yeah,
So it's quite cheaper.
yes.
So what makes Sunrise Virtual School stand out from other schools or other modes of learning?
I'd say Sunrise Virtual School, number one, we prepare the learner to fit in into the future world of work in a space that is very relevant to them. Like I said, digital natives understand gadgets. They understand simulation in terms of labs. They actually get to understand learning better from such a perspective. Then number two, of course, with over 30 nations on board, if you go to an international school right now in Nairobi, we may be different learners from different nationalities, but we are in the same environment. Our experiences are the same. But now for Sunrise, you have learners in different nations. So if somebody is in Harare, they definitely are giving you a different experience of what's happening on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to when I am from Zimbabwe, but we are learning in the same school. Then another thing is, of course, convenience. Definitely the learner doesn't have to wake up so early to come to school. School goes to them. Then the aspect of travel, like I said, the needs of the 21st century parent have changed. So of course, the parent is able to travel with the child in case there is transfer, in case you've been transferred from work, you don't need to look for another school, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I could go on and on.
As we bring this home,
Yeah.
please mention to us a few advantages of choosing Sunrise Virtual School and how someone can access it if someone wants to be part of it.
Okay. So, advantages of choosing Sunrise Virtual School over any other school is definitely number one, we take a learner centered approach. So, when we are teaching the learner, we are not teaching the learner as a group, we are teaching the learner as an individual. And that's why I said when we start off from an evaluation where we get to learn how the learner operates, and then we curate a very personalized journey for them. Then number two, our class ratio is 1:15. So of course you can tell that the teacher is able to concentrate on each and every learner. Then each and every learner gets to be covered by different experts in different fields. So if we tell you this is a physics teacher, it's definitely a physics teacher, qualified and post-trained by us on how to handle virtual schooling. Then definitely when it comes to our parents community, you get to also get a community around you that gets to tell you this is how I've operated since we were in year 4, now we are in year 9, and so on and so forth. Then most virtual schools don't incorporate the physical aspect. And the physical aspect, I mean the aspect of sporting, the aspect of mini meetups, the aspect of how we get to do cultural days and so on and so forth. So definitely Sunrise gets to cover that because we believe in holistic approach of teaching. Then the other bit is definitely affordability. And like I said, our charges are a third of what the rest normally charge. Yeah.
Okay, so how do we get to reach you?
So you can reach us via our phone number 0704 007 008 or 0706 007 008 or our website. Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, any last word for our viewer back at home?
Um, I'd say it is very good as things are changing and as the world is moving. It is also very good for the parent at home to get to come out here and research and get to see what's happening in the education sector. Even as you do research on your businesses, as you do research on your places of work, it is very, very important for you to get to check where is the world heading to in terms of education, and which which world best practices are happening right now. If my child, because remember, we are preparing global citizens, not just people to fit in Nairobi, by the way. So if my child ended up in a place like the UK, would they fit in because they've been prepared well enough, just like Alana in UK right now? So it is good for us to get out there, get to dig out information, and get to check out who are these service providers that are giving out the best that my child can get to have. Yes,
Thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
thank you.
That has been very interesting. Now, the world is shifting to a digital space, and it's high time that we all should consider ways of embracing technology. They say if you don't embrace it, it will embrace you. If you don't take it, it will take you. So if you don't be part of it, it will outshine you, and you'll end up regretting in the later days. So that has been on the launch discussion with our guest here in studio. That is Benedict Nyokabi, who is education director at Sunrise Virtual School. Now, coming up next is newspaper review. Stay tuned for that.